Hey guys, Perplexed QT here. Welcome to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you've been around for a while, well, I'm glad you're back. So I put a disclaimer in every video, and that is that I may mispronunciate a word from time to time, or I may get something confused from time to time. I do apologize. If that happens, I will always go ahead and update it or do an updated video or leave it on a pinned comment. Second thing I want to say is I have new weekly Invisaligns that went in today, and God, they hurt. So I apologize if my mouth doesn't sound right or if it sounds dry. It's because of that. And I also, last night, I had posted a picture that I thought was Mason. I found out today that it was not Mason, but I did get an exclusive picture of Mason Sisk. And you'll see those in the slideshow. But I just want to let you know this is Mason 100%. The guy in the gray shirt, it looks like him, but he looks a lot older. So I'm not sure if that's him or not. But the one in the green, what's it called? Under Armour sweatshirt with glasses, that is definitively Mason. With that said, the reason why I put the video on private last night was just because I didn't want to disrespect anybody, including my interview that I had with having that argument with Jay for Justice on that same video. So it's not professional and it was completely wrong. So what I did last night was, as soon as that live ended, I went ahead and put it on private, cut out the J part, and instead of posting it the way it did, because there were other aspects of drama in it, I didn't want to do that. So I went ahead and decided to scratch it completely and start over and just do an updated video about my interview yesterday. So here we are. So a lot of you guys have asked me why I've been so quiet about the Mason case, because there hasn't been anything to report. Even locally, there's been nothing. Part of that being nothing is because, one, the family's in mourning, but two, they really haven't come to terms with anything, and they won't speak to the news. So there's nothing new on the news. So everything is coming from family and friends that come to me. So what happens is, being that it's only family and friends, right now they're mourning. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Mason. And they all, not just both, but they really still love Mason. And the whole comprehending of what happened has been almost too much for everybody, family and friends, and through the people I speak to. There's one thing that sticks out, though, that I don't want to forget, that somebody had asked last night in the live, and that was about the burning of the bones. Well, somebody close to the family went to the house to double check because they were curious to see, were there any bones around? Is this true, or is this completely fiction? Well, and that didn't come from the news. That came from one of John's family members that lives out, doesn't live in Elkmont or anywhere near Alabama. And it turns out that he looked all over. Actually, two of them looked all over. Looked through the woods, looked through the area, looked through close, area. And they could find absolutely nothing. There were no rotted bones. Nobody was making any sacrificial lambs in the woods or anywhere near the house. So that was another rumor. So we can wash that out. That is completely untrue, unless he did something with the bones. I have a conclusion of what I think may have happened. Mental illness is still coming up from family, that yes, he had mental illness and it is not to be taken lightly. So I also want to say that if you feel suicidal, if you feel like you are going to hurt someone, if you're a teenager with raging hormones listening to this, I know some of my kids' friends listen to my shows. If anything, reach out to somebody before you do something dumb, because it only takes 1 second to completely change your entire life. Almost like driving down the road and you have, you make a decision to go left and you're gonna beat that train and your timing is off and you end up dead and killing, 5 people. It happens every day. Not someone gets hit by a train, but that you make a wrong decision. So I am begging anybody and everybody out there who's ever listening, future listeners, if you feel like you're going to hurt somebody, if your child is acting weird, acting odd, something is wrong, please reach out to somebody before you make a wrong move. If Mason would have told somebody what he was feeling, 5 people would still have their life. So I just want to put that out there. So let me get to the interview. So I had a wonderful interview with one of Mary's friends. Now, up to this point, I have only heard from John's side and from people in the area that knew John, but I hadn't really heard anything about Mary or anyone talking about Mary. And then I was contacted by one of Mary's close friends. She would like to remain anonymous, so I cannot state who she is. I did record the interview, and this way I pulled notes from it, and I have it. She is also a teacher in this, Huntsville school districts, and very close. And now she was close enough to Mary that Mary confided in her about certain things with her relationship, her family, and what she did tell me, which I knew already, but I'm not sure if you guys know already, that all of John's family lives out of town. So there was nobody here to actually see it on a day-to-day basis. Mary had some family here, and Mary confided in people, friends, close friends, teachers, fellow teachers. Because when you see someone 8 hours a day, you're going to confide in them. I confide in people at work, and I don't even see them face to face. So what this interview did do, though, is what I don't want to do and what she didn't want to do, and I really want to stress this. Nobody's trying to put anybody in a bad light. They are victims, and what happened to them should never happen to anybody. And same thing with Mason. What happened to Mason should never happen to anybody. That a 14-year-old just annihilated his entire family. That should not happen to any 14-year-old. Because one day he's going to grow up, mature, and realize, oh my God, I have no family. Like, I killed all of them. He's got a long road ahead. Hopefully he realizes it. So one of the things that Mary confided in her close friend is that John was not a perfect husband. And unfortunately, John was, I don't want to blame being a biker, but he was very flirty, I guess. So they had Mason, who was Mary's stepson, but he didn't know it was Mary's stepson. He found out about a year ago, but the last time that he saw his biological mom, he was 3. He's now 14. Somewhere around the age of 12 and a half, they told him that she wasn't his real mom, which I don't really think had a big effect on the whole situation. The only thing that I could see is a typical 14-year-old, 13, 15, 16, saying, you're not my mom, and blah, blah, blah. But most people are brought up to believe that a stepmom, if they're the only mom you know, then they're not really a stepmom. It's not like me getting married when my kids are 14 and 15 and now they have a new stepdad. It's not like that. When it's the only mom you know, it becomes a different dynamic. And it really was the only mom that he knew. So what Mary's position was, as most mothers, is to keep her family together. Mary gloated about her family. Mary wanted nothing more than her family to be loving and happy in this beautiful family. It seems that the 6-month-old baby, came about because Mary was trying to hold her family together. And Mary really wanted to hold her family together. And she loved her family. She loved her husband. She loved her children. She loved Mason. Mason was her child, according to Mary. There was no stepchild involved. Now, understand a little bit of background about Mary. Mary was a teacher, and she worked with troubled children. She didn't just work with special ed, she worked with troubled children. So she knew how to handle Mason. Like, there was no reason why she couldn't handle Mason. She worked with these type of kids every day. But there was an instance where Mason got in her face, and Mason was yelling at her. Mason was 6'2". So, I'm sorry, not 6'2". My son is 6'2", but Mason was taller than her, or as tall as her, which in the picture, which is why I think the gray picture may be a new picture, and he just got older and taller. It's possible. I just think he looks old, but being that he intimidated her, and she worked with troubled kids, it really speaks volumes as to, what actually happened. So anyone that has a child and a husband, what's a family dynamic? The family dynamic is the husband's supposed to stick by the wife and the wife's supposed to stick by the husband, without a doubt. And then if there's something wrong, they'll fight later. That's how I was raised. That my dad always stuck by my mom and vice versa. And even if they thought each other was wrong, they would wait until, like, we're not around, or they would wait until something else happened and we were nowhere to be found. And then they would say, you were wrong, Sam, or you were wrong, Cheryl, blah, blah, blah. And Mary wanted that dynamic. And Mary believed that's the dynamic that she had. So when Mason was yelling at her, and I'm going to get to the reason why, John sided with Mason and not with Mary. Now, you're probably wondering what could be so big that they would side with the other. Well, it was over a cell phone with the girlfriend. Now, this is the second time we heard about this girlfriend. Obviously, the girlfriend's a minor. I have no idea how to get a hold of her, who she is. Nobody's releasing a name. And as I said last night, if it was me and my daughter dated a family annihilator, I can assure you I would keep it pretty under wraps. I would make sure nobody knew that it was my daughter that was the girlfriend. So I'm sure in court, if he's tried as an adult, then we'll find out what actually the story is and who the girlfriend is. But as of right now, we don't know. Now, this was around June or July of this year. This happened to be the same time that the gun was stolen from the grandmother. So could this have something to do with the stolen gun? It's possible. But Mason, they were fighting over his cell phone and talking to his girlfriend. So because of this and this hyped up, hormonal running through your veins 14-year-old, he got in her face. And we don't know the extent of the conversation or what actually happened, but Mary did confide that she was dumbfounded that here she's being intimidated by this 14-year-old who's bigger than her already, and John is siding with him. So this was a big blow to her. Now, again, this is all around the same time that the gun was stolen. So could this be premeditated? It's possible. Sadly enough, is that because of Mason's problems with school and all in the last year, could be his mental illness got worse, it could be his hormones, it could be a lot of things. But because of this, sorry about that, Buka. So because of this, he stopped going to see his grandmother. I mean, there's just so many layers to this that I don't think we're ever going to know all the layers or be able to peel all the layers. But hopefully we will. But he was a troubled kid the last year. She was teaching in Madison County, which is better schools than Huntsville. And she brought Mason, and she went for a job she went for a higher ranking job, and she didn't get it. And it seems that she didn't get it due to Mason, that she lost that position. She didn't get fired, but she lost that position in Madison County schools because of her son and the delinquency of her son. So I'm going to try to reach out to them, being that he's a minor. I don't know if they'll give me any information, but it can't hurt to try. Secondly, what's sad is with John wasn't exactly the perfect husband. John was, how do I say this? He was a good guy and he meant well, but he was not the perfect husband. And it seems that Mary, around 2011 or 2012. Now we're in 2019, so this could be when the little girl was born, that they were having a birthday party for I don't know who, and John's girlfriends would show up at the party. Obviously, they didn't claim to be his girlfriends, but everybody knew they were his girlfriends. And this happened more than once, and Mary was really upset by it. And again, I'm not judging John. I'm not saying anything about John. But it's possible, if you think of psychology, it's possible that a 14-year-old that sees this can really get screwed up by this, knowing like it wasn't a secret that these are daddy's girlfriends. And I'll be honest, I have an 11-year-old who watches his dad do the same thing. Thank God he's not with me, but he watches his dad do the same thing. And it's become a joke already. Like, oh, who's daddy's girlfriend this week? Meanwhile, daddy's married. So I can see certain instances where it screws up a child, especially when a kid sees one trying so hard and one not. I'm not saying that that's definitively an answer. I'm not saying that isn't right, that, that's right. But none of us can say if that contributed to it or didn't, especially if Mason's head is dealing with a mental illness. We don't know the extent of it. But just like with autism, it's a good comparison though, but just like with autism, you don't know what's going to trigger somebody. There's that word. You don't know what's going to cause someone with autism to snap, because this person with autism as compared to this person with autism could be night and day. What makes one snap may not make another person snap. So depending on his mental illness, regardless of how severe or minor it is, it could make him snap where it wouldn't make somebody else snap. So that's why I say, none of us can really say the exact reason it happened, because we don't know what mental illness he was dealing with. Now, one of the things that she did say, though, which I found interesting, and I know somebody spoke of this in one of the updates that I did, or one of the lives I did on the case, is that she believes, now she's a teacher, she believes that Mason most probably, possibly could have had undiagnosed autism to some extent, due to the detachment, due to the way he was. And I know a lot of people would say, well, why didn't they get him tested? Or if he was tested, or if he wasn't tested. You don't know what's going on inside the family home. And a lot of people don't want to admit that their kid is autistic. So they just ignore it. No, it's ADHD. No, it's this. No, it's that. But it's interesting because I don't know anyone with ADHD that went and murdered their family. But I can see a detachment if it was somebody with autism. Or Asperger's. Autism doesn't have to be the highest extreme. My son is perfectly normal. He's got little quirks. But I can see him do something and detach from it and have no emotions for it. So could he be a psychopath? He could. But I know that Phoenix, when he was very young, they had him on ADHD medicine and it did absolutely nothing. That's how we knew it was an ADHD. So it'll be really interesting to see how this turns out. Obviously, I'm sure they're going to get him tested. Psychologists are going to talk to him if they haven't already. if they have, nobody's releasing that information yet, so we don't have it. And I will keep you guys updated. The more I know, the more you guys will know. So again, I want to thank you guys for listening. I do apologize for last night. I did not mean for it to turn out the way it did, but kind of better though. Kind of things work out for a reason, and I like being able to give you guys updates the way I just gave them to you. And if you guys have any questions, you know how to contact me. And that's it. And I'll see you guys later or tomorrow. I'm not sure. Hope you guys have a wonderful night. And don't forget, if you want to hear all the interviews and other stuff that doesn't go public, make sure you join Patreon at patreon.com/perplexqt. And I hope you guys have a fantastic night. Peace out.